Hey guys, what's up? What's happening, everyone? In today's podcast, we will be talking about a very controversial topic surrounding us in almost every part of the globe right now, the COVID 19, or as we might know it as coronavirus. I am your host, Sid, and without any delay, we will be starting off with how this disease came to shake the very stratum of our society as we know it. As a foreign exchange student, I've been in here in the US for a couple of years and never have I faced any dire situation like this before. It is already difficult being that person, who had to leave their family behind to study and hopefully learn new experiences in order to gain an insight to how the world works. And when I thought of all this, where can I go? Gain new experience, where can I see the world? I thought of the US, and that's why I've been here for a couple of years now. But however, for these past few months, it has been very difficult considering just the massive impact that this has caused, especially in the city of New York. And I've been in quarantine for almost 2 months now. I haven't been outside. I've been in my room just watching news, just hoping for a day where we can go out and live our normal lives again. But I'm not sure when that can happen. It has been really difficult just imagining what's going to happen from now, even after this COVID-19 has ended, even when there's a vaccine, what's really going to happen after that? Is everything going to go back as it was? I don't think that it's going to be the same as before, because it's like a wake-up call to everyone in the whole entire globe that if something like this does happen, we are not really prepared for it. And that is very alarming considering how advanced, how far we've come in terms of science and technology, and especially in a city like New York, a city which is basically the number one city in the whole world. It's very, I find it very alarming that we are the one that has been impacted so much. And as I've been staying indoors, just quarantining myself, not going out, just making sure that we don't spread this disease any further. Every day, I see and hear just devastating news about the impact the COVID-19 has caused globally. And in my home country, where I came from, there has been a lockdown for almost 2 months now, and people over there are facing more concerning issues than the virus itself. For example, people aren't allowed to leave their homes, and finding food itself has become more of a primary issue right now. They cannot go to work because there's checkpoints, there's security people, and they won't let you out of your home unless it's like an emergency. And even if you do get some access to food, to a market, you need money. And if you're not allowed to leave your home and you're paying rent, you're just paying your basic utilities. If you don't have a steady source of income, it's really hard for people to basically survive. And in a country, especially in parts of Asia, there's a lot of underdeveloped nations which means that they just cannot sustain themselves socioeconomically. So they need like help financially, they need help in terms of infrastructure, in terms of technology, health. And in a time like this, where even the best of the best nations are facing a huge crisis, like a huge blow, it's scary to think like how exactly are like nations, like underdeveloped nations or developing nations, like how exactly are they coping with this. And that is very scary in itself. And like as a student, if you imagine like adults themselves, they cannot maintain into surviving, like into getting food, like getting a job, because like you're not allowed to leave anymore. And in a situation like that, for a for a group of people like students who are like living, like some of them just live far away from their parents because they have to attend universities that are not in that location. They're just far away from support, from love. And when you think about it that way, I feel like students right now are facing a very critical issue that no one is really like looking into this critically as they should. Because as students, like we are supposed to be maintaining our course load, we are supposed to be focusing on our future. And when the present is in such a state as it is, focusing on the future can really be difficult at times. And as I mentioned before, like as an international student or a foreign exchange student, it has become really difficult just going daily, just trying to eat. And I'm thankful for NGOs, for like small organizations that provide reliefs, that provide food, provide support to people like us. I mean, I think it's fair, like, because the government is trying their best to support their citizens, but they're not really trying to aid the people like us, like foreign exchange students. They're just turning a blind eye right now, because the more concerning issue is the citizens. Like, how are we going to protect our citizens from this? That's their primary issue, which I understand completely. But they should also start considering what about other like immigrants or non-immigrants? What about them, right? Like, if the citizens of a nation are being impacted so much, what about those that are not citizens? Like, what's happening to them? How's their situation? Like, even if we want to go back, we cannot, because as we all know, like the flights are cancelled, you cannot leave. So in terms of a situation like this, I really find it difficult, and I find it sad that that people like us are not really being put into that graph as people who are meant to be supported, which is bad in my opinion. Like, I could use better words for it, but I also think that it's fair, because of course it's a very difficult time and everyone needs to be looked after, especially the citizens of a nation. But my point is that there should be a hand extending to those that come here to study, that come here to work so that they can support their family back home. Because when you think about it, most immigrants that came here before, they basically had to go through a stage, and when they went through that stage, there wasn't really a issue like this right now, like a pandemic that's causing everyone to stay indoors, that's not allowing us to go back home, and it's really stressful at times like this. So I took the liberty to ask some of my friends what they thought about this, and they all agreed with me. They all agreed to the idea that that it's been really difficult not being able to go back home, to have to be forced to stay here in times like this, and to not even be looked after in any way during a time such as the COVID-19. And I feel like, to an extent, I agree with them to the situation, the experience that we're all facing right now, given what's happening. And as each day passes, we're just expecting some kind of a good news that could help us all as people, as human beings, rather than being identified as, like according to your race, according to your nationality. I think in times like this, there should be like no borders that distinguishes each as to what they gain from this pandemic. Because this pandemic, it does not discriminate against who it's going to attack. So why is it that the governments, not only of the US, but like the governments of other countries as well, that I see, because I have some friends, some foreign exchange friends in Europe, in parts like France, like they are facing the same situation. But I've seen that the situation that they're facing is far more lenient than the government of the US, because they're gaining some kind of access, some kind of relief from the government, except for the government here in the US. And I'm not sure why that could be happening, but in this podcast, what we're basically trying to say in today's show is that in times like this, we should all be one, we should all stand united, and we should all think about the future in a way that does not discriminate against someone else, so that we can all find values as sentient beings, so that we're all in this together. That would be a really good thing. And I feel like we need that kind of positivity right now, that kind of optimism, so that once this ends, we can all be like, okay, there was a time when this happened, but there was also a time when we had the support, or we had some kind of optimistic vision, or a hand that helped us through that time. So in that note, I'm gonna end this podcast, and thank you for all the listeners and viewers that subscribed to our podcast last week. Please make sure to subscribe for next week's podcast as well. Thank you so much.